Shalom. My name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the Vineyard. Every day, Yahweh is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube live stream of our Torah portion reading. My name is Adam, your host, and I welcome you. This is week 18, formally known as Mishpatim, which is judgment, or better known as right rulings. And this is a very important Torah portion because we know that even in Torah communities, whatever, there's issues arise, and these, while the right rulings are kind of scattered all throughout the Torah and even all the scriptures, this is like the center hub of, hey, if something goes wrong, if there's an issue between two people, two parties, this is how it's dealt with. And so if we want to walk in Torah and we want to have justice amongst ourselves, this is a really important Torah portion. So, as always, I'm excited to go over it, and specifically this week for this reason. So, before we get into it, let's pray and ask the Most High to bless our study. Father, we just come before you again, another week, Father. We're just thankful to be here. And, Father, we just thank you for sending your Son, Yahusha, the Word, our Mashiach, that he gave his life for us, that we may have forgiveness and everlasting life. We just ask that your Ruach would be with us and guide us as we study your word, your Mishpatim, your right rulings, Father, and help us that we may have right rulings amongst each other. Obviously, we hope and pray that we don't have issues, but we know that that's not realistic. And your Torah is such a guide and a light to us, Father. Please help us to understand them so that we may hear and do your word. In Yahushua's name, amen. Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom, best day of the week. And as Yahweh says, a reminder, he says that his Shabbat is a sign, the Hebrew word is ot, a sign or a mark between he and his people. It's how he knows that we're his, because, as Paul says in Romans 8, don't you know that whom you obey is your master? So, and then the Sabbath itself is one of the 4 or 5 mentions of the sign between his people. It's not the only one, so just want to make that mention as well. So, anyways, you know what? I'm a little hasty. Let's do road shofar, and we'll get into Exodus. Oh yeah, by the way, this is going to cover Exodus 21:1 through 24:18. Road shofar. Here we go. All right, here we are back at Exodus 21. We will be reading from the Sefer version and many other translations. As you know, in case you're new, we like to just go through the Torah portion, figure out, hey, how can we apply this to our lives? As we know, we can't keep all the Torah, and that may sound weird. This might even sound even more weird or crazy, that even Messiah didn't keep all the Torah. And you're like, what are you talking about? Well, it's just because all of it doesn't apply to him. Why? Because some of the laws are just for kings. Some of them are just for high priests. Some of them are just for priests. Some of them are just for Levites. Some of them are for when you're specifically in the land. Some of them are for farmers only. Some of them are for women only. And some are for men only. And anyways, so you get the point, I guess. But what we're doing here is going through the Torah and we're like, hey, we can't keep it all, but hey, what can we keep? So that's the attitude that I have, and I would venture to say that a lot of people that continue with our studies week to week, they have the same heart as well, as, hey, what can we keep? That I want to do. Teach me. Teach us your law. Teach us your Torah that we may actually do it. So with that being said, I want to start with I want to start with the heart of David. We know that David was a man after Yah's own heart, and let's cover this. So there's the word Mishpatim, which means, well, it's translated in the KJV and the Sefer, many others, as judgment. And when we think of the word judgment, we're like, all we think of is like, like collections coming to you, or like, you mess up, and so this is, you are judged, this, with a gavel, like judgment. But right rulings is just really how to handle the situation. The right rulings is maybe a better way to pronounce it or say it here in English. But anyways, so every time we see like this word judgments, it means, or the Hebrew word is mishpatim, which means right ruling, how to rule correctly in a situation. So Psalm 119:7, I will praise you with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned your righteous mishpatim, right rulings. Psalm 119:13, or not 13. With my lips I have declared all the judgments, or mishpatim, of your mouth. Verse 20, my soul breaks for the longing that it has unto your mishpatim at all times. This is the heart of David. Verse 30, I have chosen the way of truth. Your mishpatim have I laid before me. Verse 39, turn away my reproach which I fear, for your mishpatim are good. Verse 43, and take not the word of truth utterly out of my mouth, for I have hoped in your mishpatim, right rulings. Verse 52, I remembered your mishpatim of old, O Yahweh, and have comforted myself. Verse 62, at midnight I will rise to give thanks unto you because of your righteous mishpatim. Verse 75, I know, O Yahweh, that your mishpatim are right, and that you in faithfulness have afflicted me. Hallelujah. Verse 84, how many are the days of your servant? When will you execute mishpatim on them that persecute me? So David's like realizing that mishpatim are for us to execute with each other, but that, oh yeah, would you execute right ruling on those that persecute me? Which we'll see also in the last days, Yahweh brings judgment or right ruling or mishpatim to the earth. Verse 102, I have not departed from your mishpatim, for you have taught me. 106, I have sworn and I will perform it, that I will keep your righteous mishpatim. This is the heart of David, remember. 108, accept, I beseech you, the free will offerings of my mouth, O Yahweh, and teach me your mishpatim. So this is kind of the overall heart and cry of us doing this Torah portion today is, teach us your mishpatim, O Yah. Verse 120, my flesh trembles for fear of you, and I am afraid of your mishpatim. Afraid because we'll find out if you do something wrong, there is consequences. Makes sense, right? 137, righteous are you, O Yahweh, and upright are your mishpatim. Verse 160, your word is true from the beginning, and every one of your righteous mishpatim endures forever. 164, 7 times a day do I praise you because of your righteous mishpatim, right rulings. And then here we are, Isaiah 3:14, Yahweh will enter into judgment or right ruling with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof, for you have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. Isaiah 42:1, behold my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth right ruling to the nations. Isaiah 53:8, this is talking about Messiah, of course. He was taken from prison and from right ruling. Right ruling was not given to Messiah. He was improperly imprisoned and improperly crucified. And who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living, for the transgression of my people was he stricken. Ezekiel 20:16, this is talking about the punishments coming to his people because they despised my right rulings and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols. Malachi 4:4, remember you the law, the Torah of Moshe, my servant, which I commanded him unto Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and the right rulings. This is like the last reminder, right? Isaiah 24:1-6, behold, Yahweh makes the earth empty and makes it waste and turns it upside down and scatters abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be, as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for Yahweh has spoken this word. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. So Yah is going to bring judgment to this earth because of the breaking of his rules, and especially these right rulings. This is like, right rulings are really to judge a matter. And as we saw throughout the scriptures, justice was perverted. You had unrighteous kings. You had unrighteous priests. You had unrighteous judges that would favor the rich or favor the mighty or whatever. But here, Revelation 15, just to show you. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of Elohim. And I saw as it were a sea of glass, mingled with fire, and them that had gotten victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps or the kitaras of Elohim. I want to be part of that group. And they sing the song of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, O Yahuwah. Elohim, El Shaddai, righteous and true are you always, King of the nations. Anyways, that's a song by Left and Right Ministries. It's one of my favorite. Anyways, it says, Who shall not fear you, O Yahuwah, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. For all the nations shall come and worship before you, for your judgments are made manifest. And I looked at this word in the Greek, and what's cool is you can see how it was used in the Greek Septuagint. This is the exact word. This is the word Mishpatim in Hebrew, but of course used in Greek. So his right rulings will become manifest in the earth in the last days when he comes and brings, well, as we know, bring judgment, come and bring justice to this earth, and he's going to do it. So with all that said, I just want to start off with that of how important the Mishpatim or the right rulings are. In short, this is the guidebook for judges. Deuteronomy 1:16-17, and I charged your judges at that time, saying, Hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. You shall not respect persons in right ruling or judgment or mishpatim, but you shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment or the mishpatim is Elohim's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So again, not to be so repetitive, but this is the guidebook of how matters are handled. Let's get into it finally. Exodus 21:1. Now these are the mishpatim which you shall set before them. If you obtain a Hebrew, an Ivri servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his woman shall go out with him. If his master have given him a woman, and she have borne him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my woman, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door, unto the doorpost, and this master shall pierce his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. This is like not quite like an earring, but like when you get an ear piercing, but it's like it's like a long thing, and it's kind of like what people wear today with how it's like a long thing, and it's like, I don't know, pretty thick. I don't know. Anyways, but some of you would be like, servant, slave, what's all this about? How is this already starting off on the right foot? Yahweh is talking about slaves or servants. We have to recognize that this was actually a couple different situations. Number one, if someone was caught stealing and they did not have anything to pay, then they were sold to pay for their debt. And so people could buy these people And that money, would, of course, would go to pay the person's debt, and this person would work off that debt. Some people just came from poor families and wanted to live a better life, and so they would go work for wealthier people, and they would be basically contract labor. It'd be contract employment. That would be that would be a more modern day of saying this. This is contract employment, very similar to what's called indentured servitude. I want to read it for you. Which, by the way, indentured servitude is how this country was formed, and we'll show that in a second. Indentured servitude is a form of labor in which a person is contracted to work without salary for a specific number of years. The contract, called an indenture, may be entered voluntarily for purported eventual compensation or debt repayment, like I was just saying with if someone was caught stealing and they had a debt to pay. Or it may be imposed as a judicial punishment. Historically, it has been used to pay for apprenticeships, typically when an apprentice agreed to work for free for a master tradesman to learn a trade, similar to a modern internship but for a fixed length of time, usually 7 years or less. Later, it was also used as a way for a person to pay the cost of transportation to the colonies in the Americas. This is how a lot of the people came and inhabited the colonies. The ship price was more than most people could pay, so they would sell themselves to landowners. The landowners would pay their transportation to get over there. The people would come over. They would work for that person. Typically, what's interesting is they would work for 6 years, and in the 7th, they would go free. And a lot of them inherited some acreage so that they can have their own plot of land. Like any loan, an indenture could be sold. Most employers had to depend on middlemen to recruit and transport the workers, so indentures, or indentured workers, were commonly bought and sold when they arrived at their destinations. Like prices of slaves, their price went up or down depending on supply and demand. When the indenture or the loan was paid off, the worker was free. Sometimes they might be given a plot of land. That's what happened quite a bit in this country. Now listen to this. Indentured workers could usually marry, move about locally as long as the work got done, read whatever they wanted, and take classes. So this isn't like they were like chained up in the house and whipped and tormented. They were just employees. Employees by contract. So hopefully that makes a little sense. But what Yah is saying here is that they work for 6 years and then the 7th they go free. Very much like the Shabbat. You work 6 days and rest the 7th. Much like the land. You work at 6 years and you rest at the 7th. Much like, again, here in the first right ruling, they work for 6 years and they go free on the 7th. So, Exodus 21:7. And if a man surrenders his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who has betrothed her to himself, so if she became like a wife or a concubine, then shall he let her be redeemed. To surrender her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he has dealt deceitfully with her. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. So these are protections in place for these situations. If he take him another woman, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So this is the 3 basic things that a man needs to provide his wife: food, clothing, and duty of marriage. If you're not familiar with duty of marriage means, that's like the marriage bed. That's due to her. If you take away one of those 3 things, that's right here it says, and if he do not these 3 unto her, then shall she go out free with money. This is Yah protecting women. Anyone that says that Yah doesn't love women or favor them, that's not true. There's protections in place for them. He that smites a man so that he dies, he shall surely be put to death. The death penalty. And not that our country and our laws are perfect, but you'll see that there's quite a few things derived from these biblical precepts or these Mishpatim that are still present today. Now, whether there's corrupt people in positions that manipulate or, again, not to be so repetitive, but corrupt judgment, that's a whole different thing. But the basic premise of a lot of the laws in this land do come from a biblical perspective. And if a man lie not in wait, so if it's not premeditated, but Elohim deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint you a place whither he shall flee. We'll learn more about this, about the manslayer and the accidental killing. But if a man come presumptuously, so premeditated, upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. And you'll see this all throughout the scriptures, that people that know that they're going to be put to death will come to the altar and grab hold of the horns. They're like, no. But Yah is like, no, you take him away from the altar and that he may die, and you slay him. And he that smites his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. We talked about this last week, about the importance of honoring our mother and father. So let alone not dishonoring, let alone like beating them, like what? And he that steals a man and sells him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curses his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. Careful what you say. Be careful what comes out of your mouth. Even if you have a bad relationship with your parents, again, last week we encouraged you to reconcile with your parents, no matter what the situation was. We can take the first step and be honorable people. But if you're currently in the midst of a dispute with your parents, or a disagreement or argument, be careful, because a curse can come in many forms. If you speak evil over them, or speak, like, you guys are just blah, blah. Careful. This is Torah. We're reading Torah right now. We're reading how to apply Torah. He that curses his father or mother shall be surely put to death. Not saying that you do that, one of us is going to come by and stone you. That's not what I'm saying. But how about in the heavenly courts? How about in the spiritual realm? What does that look like? Just think about that. Exodus 21:18. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keeps his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be innocent. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Well, that sounds a lot like court today. Most commonly today, like car accidents, if someone's at fault and you wreck into them, and major injuries, you can't work for months, hospital bills, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the person that's at fault has to pay. Now, a lot of times, of course, there's insurance, and insurance pays, but that also happens in general. It doesn't have to be a car, where there's insurance. It can just be in general, like you cause harm to somebody and they can't work for months, or whatever the situation is. That general premise comes from this right ruling here. So again, you can see how this has kind of permeated even to these last days. And again, I'm not whether this country fully has righteous people in positions, that's not the point here. I'm talking about just the overall how a situation is handled, or how a wrong is rectified. You'll see that here from these Mishpatim, these right rulings. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. We'll see here in the Targums, which is the Aramaic, just in case you're new, you'll see that actually it says that they shall be put to death. And when a man has smitten his Canaanite manservant or maidservant with a staff, and he die the same day under his hand, he shall be judged with a judgment of death by the sword. So the Aramaic is like, hey, you kill one of your servants, your employees, the Aramaic says the judgment of death is upon you, which makes a little more sense, because it's like you're taking a life. It doesn't matter if that person is way below you in society or money or whatever, but you kill him, that you're a murderer. So it just makes a little more sense to me. Exodus 21:21. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's man will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. So this is like, if two men are fighting, and like somehow like hurt the pregnant woman, and the baby dies, well, he's going to have to pay. He's going to have to rectify that situation. And here's where it gets really interesting. And if any mischief follow, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. So we're going to pause there, because obviously we know Messiah says something a little different. And some people that have left the faith or left Messiah, this is one thing they really zone in on. And I really want to cover this for a few minutes, if you don't mind. So let's set the stage with Isaiah 42:21. Actually, you know what? I should put verse 1 and 21, so we know who we're talking about here. It says, "Behold my servant, whom I uphold, my elect, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth right ruling to the nations." This is talking about Messiah in general. Now we know that a lot of the things that are said about Messiah, about being the light and all these kind of things, we know also transfers to us because we're supposed to walk like him. But this is specifically prophesying about him. Verse 21 of Isaiah 42 says, "Yahweh is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable." So Messiah, one of Messiah's one of the prophecies about him is that he was going to magnify the law, make it greater, and make it honorable. So he was going to do some things to it. And we learned that, of course, that it's not about not just murdering your brother, but also, not having that hatred in your heart, things like that. And we'll see that goes right hand in hand with this eye for eye, tooth for tooth thing. Matthew 5:38-40, "You have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue you at the law and take away your coat, let him have your cloak also." Now let's recognize that Messiah is just showing, hey, there's a better way. There's a better way than having to go tit for tat. But I want to share something with you that I've come across even more recently. Some of you know that I've been talking a lot about the book of the Nazarene, formerly known, also known as the Gospel of the Kaledi. This is chapter 16, verses 48-49. I find it very interesting, and I want to share it with you. "The holy books of the Yahudim say that an eye shall be taken for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But the words of the Torah must be interpreted with justice. For if an eye be taken from he who put out another's, or a tooth from someone who has knocked out the tooth of another, is the loss made good in this manner?" He's like, really? I mean, so if I accidentally hit out your eye and then you gouge out mine, is the loss really made good in this manner? "Or if a one-eyed man causes him with two eyes to lose one, shall he be made blind and so suffer a great loss?" So think about that. So let's say I had one eye and I accidentally knocked out one of your eyes. Do you now knock out mine and now I'm blind? Is that fair? Is that just? "Or if a man with two eyes causes a man with one eye to be made blind, shall he lose both?" These are reasonable questions. "Henceforth, let the loss be made good in silver or through labor. For now the law of revenge shall be overruled by the law of retribution. All laws shall now be administered under the rule of recompense, repayment. All these things I give you that they may be established and added to the Torah." Now, somebody will be like, what? Add to the Torah? Let me explain just in a second. "So that henceforth they be used in judgments or right rulings among the just." So let's talk about this for a second. I would like to share this with you. Let's go back here. So now let's remember this. Deuteronomy 4:2 says, "You shall not add unto the word I command you, neither shall you diminish aught from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh Elohim, which I command you." So think about this for a second. He's telling us, the people, human, man, woman, that we cannot add to the Torah. But if Messiah comes and wants to add more precepts to it, he can do that. He is the lawgiver. He's not us. He's not man. He's a pre-existent being, Elohim the Son, not Elohim the Father, that was with the Father from the beginning, that came down, which I believe he came down and was the very one on Mount Sinai that gave the Torah to Moshe. And I believe he has the right to add things. So if he came, and think about this, we know this, he came and took away the sacrifices, didn't he? I mean, think about it for a second. He came and became the offering for sin, so there's no more offerings for sin. He took away from that part of the Torah because it was done. Now, can he also come and add more precepts for us? I say yes. He's not lowly like us. He's not man. He's Elohim, the Son, the Word made flesh. He can do that. And that's exactly what Isaiah 42 said. He will magnify the law. So that means there's going to be something different about it and make it honorable. This isn't saying that the Torah is dishonorable, not at all, but he will make it even more honorable. And I don't know about you, when I read this part in the book of the Nazarene, that made total sense to me. That really settled the matter in my ruach, at least just for me. So, anyways, wanted to share that with you. That really puts this whole thing to rest because, like I said, I've seen people leave the New Testament, leave Messiah over this right here. And be like, he changed the Torah. He's a false prophet. Like, wait a minute. Let's hold on for a second. Let's talk about this. So, anyways, let's keep going. All right, Exodus 21:26. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. So this is Yah having protection for employees. And I want to go a little bit further. I once heard from somebody that their wife is their property and that they can do to their wife as they please, including beating them. And this is where I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Yah has protection for servants or employees that they won't be beat. How much more your wife? And this brings up a greater point that I'd like to share about these right rulings. I think you and I both know it would be impossible for Yah to put nothing's impossible for him. Let me fix myself here. Let me straighten myself out. Nothing's impossible for Yah. But let's be realistic. I don't think he wanted to put every single scenario ever possible between a dispute in here. I think that would, I think the Mishpatim would be probably like, 500 pages long of every single detail of a scenario. So I believe it's the judge's duty to look at these Mishpatim and be able to glean from it and apply it to other scenarios that aren't, line by line written in here. So for example, if let's say you were put in a place of judgment to judge between, let's say, a husband and the wife, and the husband's like, "Hey, I don't see any law that says I can't beat my wife. Doesn't exist." And I hear you. It doesn't exist. However, I think someone in a position of determining a matter would say, you know what? First of all, we're called to love our neighbors, and obviously loving your neighbor doesn't mean beating them. And Ephesians 5 talks about honoring your wife and loving them and all these kind of things. So how can you do that? But specifically when it comes to right rulings, someone's like, show me the Torah. Show me in the Torah. I would say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, here, Exodus 21:26 gives protection for an employee from being hurt by their master. And I would say, how much more should this protect a wife from being beaten, from being abused? And so my point is, these right rulings, while it might not be word for word the scenario that's placed between brother and brother or family and family in a dispute, the Mishpatim, we should be able to glean from them and be able to apply the heart of the Father. So the heart of the Father is, when this happens, this is how it's supposed to be handled. We should be able to glean the heart of the Father and apply that to a situation that isn't specifically written out word for word like that, but we can apply it in that situation. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'm not being too vague on that. But Exodus 21:27, and if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let them go for free for their tooth's sake. If an ox gore a man or a woman that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be innocent. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it has been testified to his owner, and he has not kept him in, but that he has killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall also be put to death. So here's another situation that we can apply to other situations. So not a lot of us are own oxes, cows and bulls and whatever. But let's apply it to a more realistic situation for our day and age. So this is what it's saying is, like, let's say you have a dog named Cujo, and Cujo gets out of the fence and goes and bites a little toddler's arm and needs stitches and whatever. So you know about it, and there's like a weak point in your fence that Cujo gets out of, and it happens again. This is a massive problem in the eyes of Yah, in the eyes of the Torah, in the eyes of the heavenly court. This is something where if you know that there's a situation, if you know that there's a problem with your animal or whatever, and you don't do something to fix it and it happens again, I mean, what if Cujo gets out and kills somebody? You don't think you're at that point guilty, essentially, of murder? Because that's what happens here. And the owner shall be put to death. So in that case, the ox got out once, it hurt somebody, and the owner was like, yeah, it's fine. They won't get out again. It's all good. Old Blue will stay in this time. And they get out again and kill somebody else. Now it's on you. So let's think about that. How can we look at that in different situations? I think the dog situation is easy, but what about your child? What if your child hurts somebody and you don't properly punish them or teach them a lesson and they go out and do it again? Think about that for a second. Think about it. And that can apply to a lot of different scenarios. And that's what I'm talking about, the heart of the Mishpatim. Not all of us have oxen, but this precept can apply to many different scenarios. And that's why I think these are super important for us to learn. This is, this right here, last week, this week, and really the first couple weeks of Leviticus, that's the heart of the Torah. That's where we really learn. That's how we really learn how to walk in Torah differently than how we've been raised in this world, because the world doesn't really teach a lot of this stuff. Like I said, some of these do kind of transfer over into modern day laws, but not all of them. Okay. Exodus 21:30, if there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give the ransom for his life whatsoever is laid upon him. So the person that was wronged has the ability to say, you know what, I'm not gonna have you put to death, but you can pay this sum and you can be loosed from that determination of death. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or a maidservant, he shall give it unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. So this again can also be applied to different situations. If you dig a hole and don't put like caution tape around it or cones and whatever, and someone falls in and gets hurt, breaks, you're liable. But it doesn't have to be specifically about digging a pit. Think about anything else that you could do that if you didn't take proper precautions and it causes somebody else to get hurt, you are liable. Exodus 21:35, and if the ox of one man hurts the ox of another, that he die, then shall they sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also shall they divide. And this is kind of interesting. This reminded me of Solomon. If you remember the story of the two women, one of the both women had babies at the same time. They lived in the same house. One of the babies died overnight, and anyways, there was a dispute of whose baby was still alive, and one was like, no, this is my baby, and one was that baby. And so Solomon, in his wisdom, recalls this Mishpatim, and so there was a dispute. The ox was cut in half, and it was split between them. So he was like, well, give me the baby, I'll slice it in half, and they each can have a half. So it was just, he used wisdom, and it stemmed from one of these right rulings, and that's how I'm saying, again, we can glean from these and apply to different situations, even if they don't completely line up, but have some similarities. Exodus 21:36, or if it be known that the ox has used to push in time past, and his owner has not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. So he will take the burden of it. So I want to also, before we get into chapter 22, I kind of want to just mention this. I think, in general, Yahusha was telling us about the eye for eye thing is that, we don't even have to seek. So he, in the book of Natsarim, he said, hey, instead of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, let the matters be disputed with money instead, because that seems a lot more reasonable. But he even says, I believe, in Matthew 5, it's like he's not removing justice, but he's talking to the eyes of like the plaintiff, like, hey, you did this. So do you really have to have to really seek revenge? Do you really have to even seek that? And I think he's saying there's a better way. You can just give it to Yah and say, Yah will look after the situation. I don't even have to seek this out. But also, let's consider this. He also knew that shortly after his death, that the temple was going to be destroyed, the priesthood was going to be disbanded, and there was going to be no way for these things to be reconciled. Hosea 3:4-5, for the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, without a prince, without a sacrifice, without an image, without an ephod, and without a teraphim. And afterwards shall the children of Israel return and seek Yahweh their Elohim, and David their king, and shall fear Yahweh and his goodness in the latter days. So Messiah knew that these things were getting ready to go away, so he made some changes, and rightly so. Exodus 22:1. If a man steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. So that's an interesting precept as well, because a lot of us are like, what about self-defense? So we sometimes, I think we misuse Messiah's words that people can just come into our homes, do whatever they want to our wives, daughters, sons. They can just come kill us, do whatever they want, and you're just like, turn the other cheek. That's not what he's saying. But what the Torah specifically says here, I'm sorry, I kind of went off a little quick little tangent, but what it's saying here is that self-defense is okay. If you want to protect your home from an intruder, it's okay, because it says right here, if a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. So if a thief comes in your house and you protect yourself and he die, it's not against Torah. If the sun be risen upon him, and there shall be blood shed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. Goes back to the beginning, what we're talking about. If someone obtains a Hebrew slave, this would be one of the situations. Now, the Targum says something a little interesting here, because this is not fully clear. If the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him. You're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? I think the Aramaic kind of makes it a little clearer, just in my opinion. If the thing be clear as the sun that he was not entering to destroy life, and one has killed him, the guilt of shedding innocent blood is upon him. That makes a little more sense to me, or at least it's a little clearer of what it's actually trying to say. So if it was really clear that the guy, maybe he was just trying to get a piece of food or something, and it, but you killed him anyways because you're just oh, I hate you. That's different. Maybe, during the daylight and you can see what's going on. I don't know. So it's but it's if it's at nighttime and you can't see what's going on, and the thief breaks in and it's alarming, and you're I don't know what's going on. You can't. That's a different story. So, self-defense is okay. Exodus 22:4. If the theft be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be ox or ass or sheep, he shall restore double. So that's a little bit different than what we saw in verse 1. Right here, verse 1. If he kill the animal and eat it or sell it or whatever, then he has to restore five oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. But if it's alive, then he has to restore double. If that makes sense. If a man shall cause a field or vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own field and of the best of his own vineyard shall he make restitution. So this is obviously coming from an evil heart, a deceitful heart. They're I want my ox to eat their stuff because, well, it's better. So you have to make restitution if you're caught. If fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of grain or the standing grain or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. So once again, this is much like the digging a pit thing. If you do something to cause harm, you got to repay. So if you started the fire, you got to repay. And again, that can be applied to many different situations if you cause harm. If a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to guard, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. If the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought unto the judges, to see whether he have put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. For all manner of transgression, whether it be for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or for any matter of lost thing, which another challenges to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double unto his neighbor. If a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass, or an ox, or a sheep, or any beast to guard, and it die, or be hurt, or driven away, no man seeing it, then shall an oath of Yahweh be between them both, that he has not put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. And the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. So this is talking about, and again, this doesn't have to be animals, this can be goods. So if your neighbor lends you a guitar and it's stolen, it says right here, he shall make restitution unto the owner of it. It was in your care, it was in your hands. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring for a witness, and he shall not make good that which is torn. So he'd be like, I'm sorry, some wolves came and devoured it. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. And if a man, now listen, this here, Exodus 22:14, I think can really apply to us in this modern day. Plainly, a little more clearly. If a man borrow anything, aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, or the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. So, example, this I've seen with my house. So, let's say your neighbor is like, let's say you want to till the ground to make a garden, and you don't have a tiller, but your neighbor does, and you borrow their tiller, and you till the ground, and it breaks, right? The owner was not there. He didn't see what happened. You need to make it good. You need to pay for what the value of that tiller was. Another example, you borrow someone's car, and it breaks down in your possession, and the owner is not there. You should make that repair. That would be a right ruling. And again, this can apply to many different scenarios. So if you have something going on in your life, or in the future, you're like, something happens, you can recall this and be like, hey, this is, you want to walk out Torah, this is Torah. Now listen, here's a different scenario. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be a hired thing, it came for his hire. So let's say, example number 2. So now let's just keep with the car situation. Again, this maybe a little more relevant for our day and age. So let's say now, let's say you borrow the car, but the owner of the car is in the car with you. Let's say you're driving and the owner is with you, and you're checking it out, and the engine breaks, and you're like, so now it's not on you, it's on him. Because I would say, this is just my opinion and my thoughts. Let's go back to scenario A. You borrow the person's car and the engine blows up. They're not there. So how does the owner know that you weren't like hot dogging it, like just flooring it and whatever? And or let's say you had it for a while, you changed the oil, but let's say you didn't put enough oil back in it, and the car, the engine seized because of your fault. He doesn't know, right? He doesn't know. But let's say the owner's with you and you're just driving normal and the engine seizes. The owner knows that you didn't do anything wrong. You're just driving in the car just like... So hopefully that makes a little more sense with these 2 Mishpatim. Just some of my thoughts on that. Let's go to Exodus 22:16. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his woman. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. You shall not suffer a witch to live. Super out of nowhere. You're like, whoa, okay, where did this come from? And this is where, people, these are one of the verses that people are like, hey, you going to go stone witches? You want to follow Torah, huh? You want to go stone some witches? Go ahead. You want to follow Torah? That's right there. Let's consider that, obviously, we're not in the land. Consider Daniel in Babylon. Do you think there were witches in Babylon, or sorcerers, or things like that? Do you think Daniel went around stoning witches? Probably not. We're like Daniel in Babylon. We don't have that right to go do that. That's why I say some of these laws we just can't do. And hopefully none of you out there are like, oh man, I just want to go out and stone witches. I'd rather preach the good news to them. That's just me. I mean, that's what Messiah also taught us as well. Kind of some of the renewed things. Anyways. So, stoning witches, not for today. At least not for right now. Whosoever lies with a beast shall surely be put to death. Okay. He that sacrifices unto any Elohim, save unto Yahweh only, he shall be utterly destroyed. We'll talk more about other Elohim in just a second. You shall neither vex a stranger, nor oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. And we'll talk more about strangers in a second. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry. So not only are we not to afflict them, we're supposed to help them. 2 Esdras 2:20-23 says, guard the rights of the widow. Secure justice for the fatherless. Give to the needy, defend the orphan, clothe the naked, care for the injured and the weak. Do not ridicule a lame man, protect the maimed, and let the blind man have a vision of my splendor. Protect the old and the young within your walls. When you find any who are dead, commit them to the grave and mark it, and I will give you the first place in my resurrection. Praise Yah. So we're supposed to take care of the widows and the orphans and the poor. Exodus 22:24, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with a sword, and your women shall be widows, and your children shall be fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people that is poor by you, you shall not be to him as a usurer, neither shall you lay upon him usury. This is interest. So when you lend money, this isn't like, hey, I'll lend you $500, but you need to pay me back 600 or 550 or even 501. I lend you 500, you pay back 500. But even further than that, again, just looking at the Torah in the light of Messiah, not only just lend, expecting something back, Messiah has even wiser words for us, even a higher bar that's set. Luke 6:30 through 36. Give to every man that asks of you, and of him that takes away your goods, ask them not again. And as you would that men should do to you, do you also to them likewise. For if you love them which love you, what thank have you? For sinners also love those that love them. And if you do good to them which do good to you, what thank have you? For sinners also do even the same. And if you lend to them of whom you hope to receive, what thank have you? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. So the bar is set even higher than just lending. Really, it's just giving. Someone needs money, you can lend to them, fine. How about even setting the bar higher and just say, you know what, just have it. Praise Yah. Praise be to Yah. Exodus 22:26. If you at all take your neighbor's raiment to pledge, you shall deliver it unto him by that the sun goes down. For that is his covering only, it's his raiment. For his skin, where shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass, when he cries unto me, that I will hear, for I am gracious. Now here's an interesting one. You shall not revile or curse the Elohim, nor curse the ruler of your people. Now this is saying you shall not revile or curse the gods. And we saw earlier, you don't sacrifice to other gods. Here it says don't revile or curse the gods. And then he'll also say a little bit later, don't let the name of other Elohim come on your lips. So is Yah the one and true Elohim? Yes. And his son Yahusha being part of that Godhead? Yes. Are there other Elohim? Yes. And I'll show you, and you'll be like, what? What are you talking about? Because, in Isaiah it says, there's no other Elohim beside me. Not in his stature, not in his grandeur. No, he's the Most High. There's no one literally in the equal playing field as him, or of equal highness to him. But there are other Elohim, and I'll prove it to you in just a second. But it says here, don't revile or curse the other Elohim. And I want to share some wise words with you. Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 21:27, says this: when the ungodly curses Satan, he curses his own soul. So, there's a lot of people that are like, talk really big, talk smack about Satan and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not the wisest thing. I don't think that's how we're supposed to act. That's Satan, blah, blah, blah. It's part of Torah. Don't revile or curse them. And Ecclesiastes says, when the ungodly curses Satan, he curses his own soul. Even furthermore, we see how a righteous angel acts with Satan. Jude 1:9. Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not, or didn't even bring against him a railing accusation, but says, Yahweh rebuke you. So he didn't revile or curse him. He just says, Yahweh rebuke you. So maybe before we're all like, yeah, Satan's going down, or Satan's this, or that, maybe we should just chill and just leave that to Yah. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm not like trying to stick up for him or anything, or he's like my good, like Satan's my good buddy or anything. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that's what the Torah says. Don't revile or curse them. And Ecclesiastes says, don't curse Satan. Probably a really bad move to go down that direction. That's just kind of where I'm at. That's my opinion. But other gods, you're like, really other gods? Well, yeah, Psalm 82. So Elohim, this is the Most High, stands in the congregation of the mighty, but it says Elohim. Elohim stands in the congregation of the Elohim. He judges amongst the other gods, the other Elohim. So per this psalm, it says they act wickedly. Now listen, how long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and the needy. Deliver the poor and the needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. I have said, you are Elohim. So there are other Elohim. And all of you are the children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Why? Because I believe this is talking about the council of the 70 Elohim that have rule over the nations. As we learn from the dispersion of the Tower of Babel, they were dispersed into 70 nations. And they were, each nation was put under one of these Elohim, to rule over them. However, Israel, Abraham, was taken out for Yahweh's lot. Yahweh's portion. It was like the 71st nation was Israel, and that was not under one of these 70. However, of course, when they went astray, they were dispersed and then put under the rule of these other Elohim. But these other Elohim, we find that is what these other nations serve, and that's why Yahweh says we don't sacrifice to any of these other Elohim. Also says we don't revile or curse these Elohim, and later on we'll find out that we don't call upon the name of these other Elohim as well. So, hopefully that makes sense. Back to Exodus 22, verse 29. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe fruits, and of your liquors, the firstborn of your sons shall you give unto me. Likewise shall you do with your oxen, and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam, and on the 8th day you shall give it to me. And ye shall be holy men unto me. Neither shall you eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. But over here it says, do not delay to give him the finest, and that goes true today with Romans 12. In mind that we are to offer up our lives as living sacrifices, and we're supposed to give him the best, not the leftovers. Think about Cain and Abel. Abel gave the best of the flock. Cain gave kind of the refuse, the stuff. Okay, let's go to Exodus 23. You shall not raise a false report. Put not your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Why? We learn a little bit later on in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 19:16-19 says, if a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before Yahweh, before the priests and the judges, which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness be a false witness, and has testified falsely against his brother, then shall you do unto him as he has thought to do unto his brother. So shall you put away the evil from among you. So, for example, if you're testifying against a brother as a false witness, and if he was to be convicted, be put to death, well, guess what? If you're found to be a false witness, you suffer the death penalty instead of them. How about that? Exodus 23:2, you shall not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shall you speak in a cause to decline after many to pervert judgment. This makes me think, even though this probably isn't talking about it, it just makes me think of like riots or like these big protests and demonstrations. You shall not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shall you speak in a cause to decline after many to pervert judgment. This is talking about just kind of siding with the majority in a situation just because it's the majority, just going along with the crowd, basically. Neither shall you show partiality to a poor man in his cause. So this is kind of an interesting little thought here. It's like, and with a lot of movies and things like growing up with like Robin Hood, we're like, oh, the poor, oppressed people, and blah, blah, blah. But if there's a matter between a rich man and a poor man, we can't just be like, well, he's poor, he could really use the money, so I'm going to side with him so that the judgment goes in his favor. That's wrong. We have to show impartiality between, doesn't matter if they're rich or poor or whatever, no partiality. You can't show partiality to a poor, and we'll see a little bit later, you can't show partiality to the rich, specifically because, of his riches or his influence or whatever. You cannot. And this is just stemming from the heart of the Father, because guess what? That's how he looks at us, and that's how he judges us. He doesn't care if you're rich or if you're poor or whatever, or if you have position or whatever. That doesn't matter. He judges righteously, and that's what we should all love about him. And subsequently, that's how we should act in our resolution of matters between each other. Exodus 23:4. I love this. If you meet your enemy's ox or his ass going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him. If you see the ass of him that hates you lying under his burden and would forbear to help him, you shall surely help him. So this is very relevant. Again, not all of us live in rural areas where people's oxen or horses or whatever get out, and which it still does happen. It does. But let's go back to Cujo. Maybe not Cujo. Let's go to Lassie. Okay, so let's say you have a neighbor across the street and they hate you. They're always like sneering at you, and they're like, and they've shouted at you before. They're like, blah, 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 blah. But let's say they have a dog named Lassie, and Lassie gets out, and you hear Lassie barking, and you look through the blinds, and you're like, oh, honey, Lassie's out again, and go out about your business. No. Torah says, Torah says you go outside and you get Lassie, and you knock on your neighbor's door and say, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Lassie got out. Just wanted to return Lassie to you. Have a blessed day. Or maybe they could be like, oh, wow, hey, thanks a lot. I didn't expect you to do that. Thank you. And then you have a conversation. Who knows? You could be these are little things about being a light to people, because the Torah is light. And if you perform Torah to others may be like, you know what? They may not say anything then, but maybe they go in their house and be like, I'm always so rude to them, and they did that nice thing to me. What's different about them? Gosh, I wonder what those little strings from their pants are hanging about. Let me go look it up. Torah, they follow Torah? What's Torah? Who knows? You just never know. That you may never have another conversation with them again, but that may set them on a journey of searching things out. You just never know. Our job is to be the light. So, and it doesn't have to just be dogs. It can be whatever. It can be anything. But it's just a really good precept to put in our hearts, not only just neighbors we love, but even neighbors that maybe hate us. Who knows? Okay, let's go to Exodus 23:6. You shall not pervert the judgment of your poor in his cause. So now this is talking about you can't deny justice to a poor man in his cause just because he's poor, of little influence, of no significance, whatever. It doesn't matter. Keep far from a false matter, and the innocent and the righteous slay you not, for I will not justify the wicked. And you shall take no gift, for the gift blinds the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Let's pause here, because some people are like, gifts are evil. You can't give gifts. Because a lot of us, we think about like Christmas and whatever. Okay, yeah, I agree. Not in that ways, but you think that like it's wrong to like bake cookies and just go give it to your neighbor. That's a gift. Is that wrong? Well, no. Is this talking about like gifts in general, that you can't give gifts or take gifts? No. Remember, this whole section is about justice. So that's the lens we need to look at. So this is talking about taking a gift for the context of justice. Why? Because the gift blinds the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. We'll share that here. Sirach 20:29. Presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise, like a muzzle on the mouth they avert reproof. So this is talking about receiving gifts in the cause of a judgment. At least that's how I understand it. Because there's nothing wrong with giving a gift. Like, someone's giving me a gift of tzitzit. Like, awesome, praise Yah, thank you. Or whatever. Like, that's not wrong. Now, if there's like a matter between a dispute between two people, and someone's giving a gift, well, that's a different story. Exodus 23:9. Also, you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, seeing you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. Think about this. We're all strangers right now. Leviticus 19:34. But the stranger that dwells with you, you shall be unto as one. I'm sorry, I messed it up. But the stranger that dwells with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Let's keep going. Hebrews 11:8-10. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing where he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise. So he's a sojourner in promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which has foundations, of whose builder and maker is Elohim. So Abraham was a sojourner. Here's David again, Psalm 119:19. I am a stranger or a sojourner, in other translations, in the earth. Hide not your commandments from me. So he says to take care of the stranger or the sojourner. Well, we're the same thing. So are we. Laws about the Sabbath, and especially in this version where we're at now. Exodus 23:10. 6 years shall you sow your land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie still, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive yard. 6 days shall you do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your ass may rest, and the son of your handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. Actually, back here, we'll talk more about this when we get into Leviticus, where the fuller command about working the land for 6 years and resting the 7th is a lot more present. This is kind of just a quick little excerpt about it. But, this has been talked about a lot for a lot of people that have... goodness, what's the word? Wow, I am at a loss of words. But people that have land, people that have farms or land, have gardens, and really live off the land, they ask, should we be doing this today? This is definitely about, and you look in Leviticus, it says when you enter the land, such and such. But can we do it today? Would that be a big test of faith, especially if you rely heavily on your crops? Yeah, it would be. And I know people specifically in our area here that do it and get blessed big time, that do see an increase in the 6th year, because you'll learn in Leviticus it says he'll give you extra in the 6th year that will hold you over for the 7th year and even the 8th year. And so I know specifically one family that has a large farm, and they rely on those crops quite a bit, and they let it rest that 7th year, and they get blessed. Praise Yah. I meant to say homestead was the word I was searching for earlier. Some of you were probably like, homestead, Adam, homestead. I know a lot of you. I know you guys know I got tripped up on my words quite a bit, and I'm sure you're at home like, Adam, it's a homestead. It was homestead. You're right. Okay, so now we're at Exodus 23:13. And in all things that I have said unto you, be guarded, and make no mention of the name of other Elohim, neither let it be heard out of your mouth. So here it is. So make no mention of other Elohim, which is kind of interesting because when we read the scriptures, there's names of other Elohim in the scriptures. So like what are you supposed to do? Like, are you supposed to read over that and not read it? Well, no. And so obviously we have to maybe use a little bit of wisdom here, and perhaps just randomly saying that name, which goes into a whole nother category of things. A lot of you know I like to. I used to really like to research the stars, and what's very unfortunate is a lot of the stars, the major stars, specifically the wandering stars, are named after false Greek gods. And so I'm like, that star, it's called the big one. Oh yeah, in Hebrew it's called Zedek. That's where I'm really trying to change my vocabulary. So it's like, oh yeah, you see that really bright star, the morning star. Yeah, I know. So maybe we have to recognize that a lot of these false Elohim names are inserted into culture, pop culture, just general language. And maybe we should seek to not just casually mention these names. So I don't think it's a sin to read the scriptures that talks about these other Elohim. But I think it's maybe a different context. And so I think we should consider that. Definitely not calling upon these false Elohim, obviously. That's the obvious one, in my opinion. But anyways, just something to consider. All right. Exodus 23:14. 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year. Excuse me. What this is interesting. This is the 3 major harvests. We'll learn this is the Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, kind of all lumped into one long week there. That's the barley spring harvest, and then you have the late spring, early summer harvest of the wheat, known as Shavuot or Pentecost, and then you have the end of the year harvest of the grapes and other fruits, of course, and that is Sukkot. Those are the 3 main harvests and the 3 major feast days. And if you're someone that likes end time stuff, we made a video a couple years ago during our Revelation line by line series. It's called End Time Harvest Revelation 14 Decoded. And what you'll learn is that these three major harvests have a lot to do with the end times. And I pray it's a blessing for you. So again, if you want to, I think, yeah, if you look at the study notes, yes, in the study notes, which, by the way, in case you don't know, I put everything that I talk about or all the different scriptures I bring up, I put in the study notes, and I put it in the description box below. You know, if you look at a video, here, we'll just click on this, and I'll show you. So in the description where it says show more, you know, there's links and stuff, so it's not in here, but in this video you're watching right now, if you want the study notes, you just go in the show more section, and there'll be a link for the study notes. In those study notes, I have a link for this video as well, if you want to look that up. But anyways, 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me into the year. You shall guard the feast of matzah, unleavened bread. You shall eat matzah, unleavened bread, 7 days, as I commanded you. In the time appointed of the month Abib, for in it you came out from Mitzrayim, and none shall appear before me empty. And the reason these 3 are specifically mentioned is because these 3 were required to go visit in Jerusalem, different than the other feasts. They did not have to. And the feast of Katsir, harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of Asif, the ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when you have gathered your laborers out of the field. 3 times in the year, all your males shall appear before Adonai Yahweh. So this is not saying that the other feast days are not important, but specifically these 3 you need to appear in the chosen land, which was Jerusalem. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with chametz, which is leavened bread. Neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the first fruits of your land shall you bring into the house of Yahweh Elohika. You shall not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Now, Judaism will say that you can't have a cheeseburger, which means you can't have a piece of meat with cheese on it. I totally disagree. I'm not going to go into it too much. We talked about it a little bit last year, but do your own research. There was some nations that would specifically, literally, it was very literal, that they would boil, the animal in its mother's milk, which apparently made it super tender and tasty, whatever. But that's just outright like nasty. Like, it just seems so wrong. I don't know. Anyways, we're not going to get into it. But just to be plain with you, I do believe you can have meat with dairy. That's just where I'm at. And again, this is coming from somebody that grew up in Judaism, and I understand where they come from, but that's just not what the text says. That's adding to or that's adding to this commandment. It says you shall not see the kid in its mother's milk. It does not say you cannot. If Yah didn't want us to eat milk or meat and dairy, then he would say don't eat milk and dairy. Which, by the way, I'm sure this has been brought up by somebody before. But if I think about it right now, is it Genesis 19 or 20 when the 3 the 3 angels or the 2 angels and Yahusha, however you look at it, came to him? Didn't he? Oh, no. Was there any cheese? Maybe there wasn't cheese. Okay, maybe it was just bread and meat. Okay, anyways, never mind. All right, Exodus 23:20. Let's keep going. Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Now it's bothering me. Didn't he get him bread and butter and then meat too? Anyways, whatever. So, but it says, beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if you shall indeed obey his voice, this is talking about the angel of Yahweh, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto your enemies, and an adversary unto your adversary. For my angel shall go before you, and bring you unto the Amorim, the Hittim, the Perizim, the Cananim, the Hivim, the Yebusim, and I will cut them off. So, boom. A lot of you, this is kind of a contentious subject, but I do believe that the angel of Yahweh, commonly known as the angel of the Lord, if you will, I do believe is Messiah. And you're like, wait a minute. Messiah is not just some angel. I agree. He is the angel of Yahweh. It's mentioned in Malachi that he that he is the messenger of Yahweh. Revelation 10 says that a certain powerful angel comes down with a rainbow above his head and with a little book open, which we know only Messiah could open. Anyways, there's lots of things, again, for another time. But if you'd like to test my theory, and this is just my opinion, my understanding that I have, if you'd like to test, it's only 32 minutes, which for me is a short video, as you all know. I believe that I can accurately show you in the scriptures that Yahusha is the angel of Yahweh. But we may disagree on that point, but hopefully we can still love each other and have fellowship if we disagree. Exodus 23:24. Here it is again. You shall not bow down to their Elohim, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. So this is in this Torah portion, there's 4 times about these other Elohim. Stay away from them. And ye shall serve Yahweh Lahaikim, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from you from the midst of you. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in your land. The number of your days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before you, and will destroy all the people to whom you shall come. And I will make all your enemies turn their backs unto you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Hittites from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field multiply against you. By little and little I will drive them out from before you, until you be increased and inherit the land. And I will set your bounds from the Red Sea even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out from before you. You shall cut no covenant with them, nor with their Elohim. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their Elohim, it will surely be a snare unto you. Okay, chapter 24. So this is the covenant confirmed, a.k.a. the marriage. And there'll be a little bit more of it, is it next week or the week after that? And he said unto Moshe, come up unto El Yahweh, you, and Aharon, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 of the elders of Yashrael, and worship you far off. And Moshe alone shall come near El Yahweh, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moshe came and told the people all the words of Yahweh, and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which Yahweh has said will we do. And Moshe wrote all the words of Yahweh, and rose up early in the morning, and built an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Yashrael. So back up real quick. So this is like, they're saying like, here, this is what you need to do for the covenant, for the marriage. And the people are like, we do. Verse 5, and he sent young men of the children of Yashrael, which offered burnt offerings, and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto Yahweh. And Moshe took half of the blood, and put it in the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the Sefer, the book of the covenant, and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that Yahweh has said will we do, and be obedient. Once again, we do, I do, we do. And Moshe took the blood, and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which Yahweh has cut with you concerning all these words. Then went up Moshe, and Aharon, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Yashrael. Now listen to this. And they saw the Elohai of Yashrael, and there was under his feet, as it were, the paved work of sapphire stone, as it were in the body of heaven in his clearness. So let's back up for a second. It says they saw the Elohai of Yashrael. Let's pause there real quick, because I'd like to share this with you. John 1:18. No man has seen Elohim at any time. And they saw the Elohai of Yashrael. No man has seen Elohim at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. We'll learn about that in a later Torah portion. I don't know if it's next week, the week after. So let me ask you a question. And what I believe is, this is saying here is no one has seen the Father at any time. That's just how I understand it. So if no one has ever seen the Father, who did they see if they saw the Elohai? For lack of better terms, they saw the God of Israel. Who did they see? Well, I think you'll learn a little bit more here, but I believe they saw the angel of Yahweh, who is the mediator and the Elohim of Israel, which is Messiah Yahusha. That's what I believe. I believe they saw Yahusha, the Elohim of Israel, the Holy One of Israel. That's just where I'm at. If that upsets you, I apologize. If that's new to you, you're like, what? Because we have to reconcile that. And there's other witnesses of this. No man has seen Elohim at any time. Later on, Messiah says, you have never heard or seen from the Father at any time. That means you never heard his voice at any time. So who did they hear? Whose voice did they hear? I believe it was Messiah's. Exodus 24:11, and upon the nobles of the children of Yashrael he laid not his hand. Also they saw Elohim and did eat and drink. There it is again. They saw Elohim. Who did they see? I believe they saw the angel of Yahweh, Messiah Yahusha, our King, our High Priest, the everlasting, the one that was with the Most High from the very beginning, that says that everything was made through him and nothing that was made without him. Exodus 24:12, and Yahweh said unto Moshe, again, if you're like, well, it's right here. It says Yahweh said to Moshe, Yahweh speaking to Moshe. Well, in this case, I do believe that Messiah wasn't fully revealed back then, but I do believe that when Messiah speaks on behalf of the Father, it is the Father speaking, but through his Son. Come up unto me into the mount and be there, and I will give you sapphire stones and a Torah and commandments, which I have written you, that you may teach them. Which is really cool. I think we'll talk about this more a little bit later on, maybe next week or the week after. But a lot of us, when we think of the Ten Commandments, we think of just like, your typical grayish, pale-colored stone, and you're like, well, really, there are sapphires. And that's really cool, because if you think about the commandment for tzitzit, which is the tassels, the strings that we find out about in Numbers 15, is that we're supposed to have a string of blue in it, and the blue and the tzitzit are supposed to remind us of the commandments. So the throne of Yahweh is blue or sapphire. It's earlier it said here, under his feet were a paved work of sapphire. That's the blue. We can look up to the sky, and there's a lot of different opinions of why the sky is blue. I would believe it's because I think the firmament's sapphire. That's just kind of where I'm at with that. But all these different blues, it's supposed to remind us of Yahweh. It's supposed to remind us of his throne. It's supposed to remind us of the sapphire tablets. Anyways, so I will give you sapphire stones and a Torah and commandments, which I have written, that you may teach them. And Moshe rose up, and his minister Yahusha, that's Joshua, and Moshe went up into the mount of Elohim, and he said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aharon and Horai are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moshe went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of Yahweh abode upon Mount Sinai. And the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moshe out of the midst of the cloud. And the sight of the glory of Yahweh was like devouring fire on the top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Yashrael. And Moshe went into the midst of the cloud and got him up into the mount. And Moshe was in the mount 40 days. And 40 nights. Praise Yah. So, with that, brothers and sisters, Torah portion's over. A couple things. We want to do prayer, want to do announcements, and then we've got a new song. If you're with us earlier on the Book of the Natsarim study, you probably already heard it. But I'd like to share a new song with you. It brings me a lot of joy to sing or to make music. We see it so many times in the Psalms. Sing a new song unto him. Praise him with the harp and praise him with the stringed instrument. It's a blessing. If you've never played an instrument, try one. If you've never sung to him, try, even if it's horrific. It's not to him. Can you imagine if you just try your hardest? He's like, yeah, that's my people right there. Anyways. So announcement, again, Passover's coming up soon. 40 days. 40 days-ish. If you didn't hear before, we're camping out in Lebanon, Missouri. It's a 285-acre private campground right on the river. It's beautiful. We've done feast days the last 2-3 years there. And I love it. I love that place. I love going back every 6 months, essentially. We do Passover there, and we do Sukkot there. We're going to camp out for 8 days. It's amazing. You can bring your RV, our campers. All the electric sites are already taken. However, you can boondock. So that's what I do there. I just kind of to me more of an experience of camping. I bring my camper, which is my home. I live in it. But I just I bring a generator and whatever. So you can boondock, bring a tent, whatever. And we just have a great time. We praise Yah for 8 days or 7 days during the feast of unleavened bread. We have fresh unleavened bread every day. We're going to do the Passover there together as a congregation. We have a huge, beautiful, brand new 160 foot by 80 foot tent that we congregate in. We sing and dance to him every night. It's just a blessing. So if you want to come, come. If not, hopefully we'll see you at another feast day, or maybe we'll party in the Shamayim when it's time. But if you're interested and you want to sign up, I was telling you a little bit more about the show more section under this video. Just click it. You should see a sign up link for Passover if you'd like to join us. So with that being said, let's pray, and then we'll do a new song and we'll end. Heavenly Father, oh yeah, we thank you again for allowing us to study your word, for giving us a heart that wants to read your word and wants to grow. And we just thank you for drawing us unto Messiah Yahusha. We thank you for opening our eyes in these last days and exposing falsehoods and sharing truth. And we just pray to be a pleasing offering before you. And we just hope to be ready at the return of Yahushua HaMashiach. And we pray, Father, that you come and you bring right ruling and judgment to this earth. And we ask this all in Yahushua's mighty name. Amen. Hallelujah. Hold on. I want to continue to pray. Father, we just also want to pray for anyone out there that's in the midst of trials. Father, we don't ask you to take them out of the trials, but that you strengthen them through the trials. Father, that they may be refined, and that what you don't want in their life to be burned away. Father, I pray for anyone out there that's in pain or in sorrow of heart or due to loss or whatever it may be, Father, that you would be their comfort. And we ask this for all the Kodashim across the four corners of the earth that love you, they're calling upon your name, that believe in your true Son, Yahusha. Amen. Hallelujah. I know there's a lot of debate back and forth about the Asbury revival thing. I'm not one to be hasty with my tongue and speak, but I will say, pray for these people that they continue in the faith and that they would seek Yahweh, and seek his truth, seek his true Son, seek the commandments, all these kind of things. Because I don't know about you, I can remember my conversion. I fell to my knees and I called upon God. I called upon the J word because I didn't know any better. And through my sincere heart of seeking him, I believe he allowed me to see these things, much like you. That's probably why you're here. So pray for these people. Instead of maybe pointing the finger and be like, you're not this, you're not that, maybe just pray for them. Because let's not forget where you were a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Pray for these people. Because it's perhaps that a good portion, a little portion of these people can end up coming to Yahweh and to the truth. They got to start somewhere. That's where I start. That's where I started. I started just listening to Ravi Zacharias. I had a nice little 45-minute commute to work, and I turned off music, and I just turned on Christian radio and just listened to Christian preachers, and I just had a heart to want to know him more, and that's all I knew at the time. So anyways, don't be too hasty. Just something to consider. We don't know. What do we know? But of course, a true conversion, of course, would lead to real repentance, baptism, walking the commandments, and so on and so forth. But pray for these people that they would go through those steps. All right, new song. I'm out. Shalom. Shabbat shalom, excuse me. This is called O Yahuwah.